through these episodes, there are some gold nuggets that are coming out, which are changing people's perspective. And if you have a change in perspective, then usually your behaviour then changes.
Before we dive into this week's episode, let's talk about a brand we both genuinely love, Cytoplan. You've probably heard us mention them before, and that's because their supplements are next level.
Yes, Cytoplan has been part of my routine for a while now. They just get it when it comes to health. Their whole approach is rooted in science and totally in tune with nature.
Exactly. Their formulas are bioeffective, which basically means the nutrients are in forms your body actually recognises and uses properly and at the appropriate levels. Cytoplan is used and trusted by health practitioners across the country. Their formulas are developed by nutritional therapists and backed by over 3 decades of clinical insight. You really can feel the quality when you take them.
Plus, it's not just about what's in the bottle, it's the mission behind it too. Cytoplan is 100% owned by a charitable foundation, which means everything they do is about helping people live well for longer. It's not about trends or quick fixes, it's about real, lasting health.
That is so wonderful to know. And whether it's our energy, perimenopause, menopause itself, sleep, immunity, or just staying on top of your health, they've got you covered. You can also get a free health questionnaire and a consultation by ringing the helpline.
So if you're ready to take ownership of your health, check out Cytoplan, powered by nature, proven by science, and rooted in purpose. We'll pop the link and an exclusive 15% discount code in the show notes. Hello, I'm Karen Mellers.
Hello there, I'm Dr. Rosy Daniel.
You've just tuned in to Alive and Loving It, and we're here to help you bring joy and energy back to your life. Hello, you're here again. I'm so excited to know that you are tuning in and listening again. And we are getting more people in our Live and Loving community every single week. Thank you so much for giving us your comments and for joining us on the website. It's all brilliant. It keeps us going, Rosie, doesn't it? It's our food. It nourishes us.
Well, it's just so great to know that the message is landing, and we want to hear all the things you've tried and that are working, and if there's any extra help we can give you.
And actually, I think the numbers have gone up because of our new co-host.
Of course.
Evelyn, it's all down to you, my love. They've heard that you're on the podcast with us. Thank you so much for doing these episodes for us. How are you?
I'm good, and thank you for asking me. Thank you for asking me. It's a joy.
No, it's wonderful to be chatting about this. So we're episode 40. We're talking about hay fever. We're going deep dive. We're going deeper, and we are educating people exactly what it is, because while a lot of us look forward to summer and the warmer weather, there's a lot of people that dread it because it is just so difficult for them with the allergic reaction they have to pollen. So, Rosie, explain to us first what is going on with hay fever. What's happening in our bodies?
All right. Well, as the name suggests, traditionally this is linked with pollen that's flying from all the grasses, from the hay. But there are actually many kinds of pollen that activate us. And what happens for some people who are very atopic, have got a very sensitive tissues, the tissues swell. And what people don't realize that in our noses, the tissue on the inside of our noses is erectile tissue, and it engorges with blood and it blocks our noses. And you see people sort of blowing harder and harder and harder, trying to clear their nose, when actually they're making it worse because the tissue is actually swollen. But for many people, it's their eyes as well as their nodes that are just as problematic. So for some people, streaming eyes, itchy eyes are almost worse than the blocked nose. So we can have this allergic rhinitis at different times of the year, depending, because some of us react to things like nettle spores and fungal spores that come out more in the autumn. But Evelyn, you were just saying that there's a bit of a difference in the pattern of the arrival of the pollen this year.
Yes, I did a little bit of research, and this year has been called, they're saying they've had a bit of a compression start to 2026, which means the temperature's been lower and the moisture levels have been higher, which kind of subdues the release of pollen. And then with just a few days of sunshine and higher temperatures, there's a burst of pollen release. So I feel like I am a walking advert for hay fever at the moment, because I don't normally have such puffy eyes. And I don't normally suffer, but I can do occasionally. And this year I am succumbing, yes, to hay fever. So, and it's worse the further south you are. So the south and southeast of the UK, there seems to be a greater problem down there because the pollen in the grass count's higher. So we all need to move to Wales or Scotland. That's essentially what we need to do.
I am, again, beyond the trend, aren't I? I'm leading the trend, because we're up here in the Scottish Highlands, and the daffodils are still out, even though we're recording this on the 28th of April. The blossom is only just starting to come out, so we're at least 6 weeks behind, I think, up here.
Last weekend we drove across from Somerset across to Bedfordshire, past all these bright yellow fields of rape seed oil growing. And by the time we got to our wedding, we were streaming, because I think the rapeseed pollen is particularly, that's quite an itchy one. Yeah.
And we're talking a lot about the UK here, but of course we've got listeners all over the world now, and particularly in the US. It'd be really good to get your comments through our website or on whatever streaming platform you're listening to about when you suffer. When is it prominent? And are there places in the world where it doesn't happen? Who knows? Could be. So this nasal swelling then, Rosie, how can we reverse this then? Is there something we can do? Please tell us. Give us that hope.
Okay. Well, the conventional medical way is that people get given sprays which constrict the blood vessels again, so cause the tissue to go down. But the problem with that is that possibly an hour or two later, people get a rebound. So the effect is great in the moment, but then it comes back sometimes feeling worse. And so, there's a yo-yo effect. But, one thing, and of course, other people do it with tablets, antihistamine tablets. But the downside there can be that they make some people very drowsy. And so that's the kind of way, as per usual, that the medical side goes, which is let's suppress all of this. But what we want to get talking with Evelyn about is the kinds of mechanisms that can be used through Anthroposophy, homeopathy, different herbal kind of routes. But there's one very simple thing which I know about, which is cold water and bathing the nose. So it sounds like a funny thing to do, but if you put cold water, or even cold water with ice, if you're a bit of a masochist, and you put it under your nose and then just gently tip it, not to the point that you're swallowing it, but that you're just literally, or you get a handful of water and just put cold water up into your nostrils, because what you're also doing then is washing the pollen out rather than trying to blow it out and making things worse. So it's bathing. And if you're even more sophisticated than that, you can do the yoga nasal passage cleaning, which is with a neti pot. I've never mastered this one personally, but apparently you have a little pot with a little spout and you pour water into one nostril and it goes around the back and comes out of the other one. And the yogis put a bit of salt in it so that you're flushing it out. But Evelyn, what would you say? How would you be looking to get rid of the swelling?
I mean, I think what you're saying about the cold water is it's simple first aid, isn't it? Is to bring down the swelling of the tissue, and readily accessible to most people. There are some isotonic sprays that are out there. So the isotonic means it's kind of in balance with your salts. and that's also cooling. And one of them has got aloe vera in there as well, so quite moisturising. So again, washing away the pollen and cooling down the tissue and bringing down the swelling.
Would that be the Rhinodoron spray?
That's a medical advice. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So that's a spray from Weleda, which is, as Evelyn, you're saying, has got some beautiful aloe vera in it. And aloe vera is coming from the spiky cactus, and the gooey bit inside the leaves is very soothing to make mucous membranes, isn't it?
Has anti-inflammatory properties as well. So I think it's a mixture of the anti-inflammatory properties and the moisture effect. In a pharmacy, I know people really suffer with hay fever and use nasal sprays, and quite often use the nasal sprays too often. So it's something that you might want to do intermittently. If you need to use a nasal spray, then intermittently using something which is just less can be more. So the isotonic solution with the aloe vera and the cooling effect, that can really help.
Lovely.
What I'm hearing as well, Rosie, is you're saying that blowing your nose often, which obviously we want to do if it is streaming, but that can actually make things worse.
Yeah.
Because that's helping it to get more and more inflamed. So I think that's really, through these episodes, there are some gold nuggets that are coming out, which are changing people's perspective. And if you have a change in perspective, then usually your behavior then changes. So you might become more aware of, actually, let me just use a tissue and dab this instead of blowing and blowing and blowing. And actually what I'm thinking about if you are blowing too much about that area, this gets really red and sore, doesn't it, around your nose? So that's when I would always reach for the Weleda skin food with chamomile.
Yeah, so beautiful. And you've just made me think, of course, I didn't say sneezing. So as well as the blocking, so again, the body is trying to sneeze this pollen out. Because, when we sneeze, all this, the pollen comes shooting out. So if we're suppressing the sneezing with medical medications, you're actually dampening down your body's own way of eliminating these pollen granules.
While we're talking on this subject, what do you think about nose hairs? What are the purpose of the nose hairs? Because I saw a really big celebrity the other day having her nose hairs waxed, where they put a little bit of wax up and with a stick and pulling them all out. My first reaction was, oh my God, that must be painful. But then those hairs are there for a reason. Aren't they? Wouldn't they catch pollen and other nasties going up your nose?
Well, yes, and I'm kind of wondering why you want to know, Karen, but
what I haven't had it done yet.
Okay.
I heard the yes there.
But yes, that's what they're there for, is to stop dust and things going up our noses. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think the more we know about what our body is trying to do for us and encourage that, the better. Can we reduce our reaction to pollen? How do we do that?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it? Because you've heard me talking about this allergic threshold. And in the hay fever world, there's a phenomenon called sensitization. So in February, it might take 50 grains of pollen to make you sneeze. But as your body gets used to it and learns, I don't like this, by June, it might only take 2 grains of pollen to make you sneeze, because your body has learned a response and you're way, way, way more sensitive. So obviously, if you can avoid yourself getting sensitized in the first place, but Evelyn, I think you know of some approaches that use pollen to try to desensitize the person.
Yes, it's fascinating. At certain times of the year, and I don't think they have to harvest it this year, but the gardeners at Weleda quite often tap the stalks of different weeds and grasses and trees to catch pollen. And you only need about 6 grams to make a homeopathic remedy. That's a lot of work when you're catching little minuscule molecules and particles of pollen. However, they do manage it, and that can be potentized, so diluted and prepared homeopathically to make remedies, which it's not true homeopathic remedies. True homeopathy is treating like with like. So it's a bit of a off to a tangent, and it's treating the same with the same. So it's called isopathic. Minor detail, but essentially what you're doing, the theory behind it is to desensitize yourself to the contents of that pollen, to bring down your reaction. And I know that it's common to try that approach maybe 4 weeks before you actually think you might succumb to the effects of hay fever. A lot of people do that about a month prior. Mm-hmm.
And what's that called, that remedy?
Mixed pollen.
Mixed pollen. Okay, so you're saying that we can desensitize ourselves in an isopathic way by using pollen. And showing the body and somehow giving the body the message that this is safe and that we don't have to have a great big reaction to it.
Exactly. So it's a minimal dose, and it triggers a response to not react massively to the circumstances.
That's amazing.
So big question here now, thinking about this body being our container. Can other things affect how sensitive we are? Like we always talk about stress, Rosie. So if we are highly stressed at the time when the pollen is at the most, are we more likely to have hay fever symptoms? Does that follow what we've been saying about other conditions?
I would say 100%. Yeah, that if we're stressed, if we're full of adrenaline, that these histamine reactions are going to be stronger and more frequent. But I would say this for the inflammatory environment altogether, because you know how I feel about acidity in the tissues. So if we're eating and drinking a lot of acid, and the main culprits in society is alcohol and tea and coffee, sour drinks, lemon juice, vinegar, if the body is acidic, then all of the inflammatory processes are worse. And that's particularly hay fever, joint pains, itchy skin. Do you find this, Evelyn, that there's a correlation there?
Absolutely. I think stress is the culprit of many demise, things becoming worse, isn't it? It just brings down your immunity. I think you have an example of stress and immunity. Was it the platelets that are paralyzed, or am I going off on a tangent?
Well, I know that at medical school, I saw a film about, there was a Petri dish full of white cells that were merrily doing their thing and, you know, eating up bits of rubbish and bugs and what have you. And somebody put a tiny, tiny little drip of adrenaline into the Petri dish and they completely froze. So it wasn't, it left such a dramatic imprint on my mind to see the immune system being put into stasis like that. And I guess the evolutionary logic of that is if I'm trying to escape from a lion, that fighting off a cold is academic, you know, and I need to just put all that energy that the body's been putting into phagocytosis, which is munching up all the debris and the bugs and what have you, into thinking and running like hell. I think we can do ourselves a lot of favors, you know, if we know we're an allergic person, the kinds of places we go, you know, staying away from flowering gardens or flowering woods, going somewhere where we may be by water, where there's an offshore breeze, if we're lucky enough to get access, you know, or up at higher altitudes, you know, that there's like where you are, Karen, there's less pollen flying as the air, as we go higher.
Yeah. What I'm hearing from you both again is that we need to bring in awareness and understand about ourselves, about where our stress levels are, about where our sensitivity levels are, and make some changes in our lives before we get to that situation. if we get to that situation and you're really struggling, there are some, conventional medicines that can help. But we're all about helping people be aware of their bodies and taking action, prevention, rather than fixing the symptoms. So, I'm hearing things like reducing your stress levels might not be possible, but what else can we do to make sure we're breathing as easy as possible?
Well, I think some physical things, I think humidifying the air around us can help. I think having an air filter can help a lot, especially in your bedroom. I've been seeing adverts on Instagram for dust collectors, and this seems to be coming in from China. I haven't yet tried that, but I think if the air can be cleaner, that's going to be a lot better. But a little bit of humidity and mixed with aromatherapy oils so that you're diffusing a bit of either a breathe oil or what do you think about that kind of thing, Evelyn? Do you advocate the use of oils?
The use of pine and thyme, I mean, they're antibacterial as well. So if you are succumbing and having a difficult time being exposed to pollen, then making sure that there's no bacteria getting in there, keeping it clean. Yeah, but reducing exposure is a big one, isn't it?
Yeah. So with the pine and the thyme, would you be doing that in a bath milk or with an oil in a diffuser?
I don't actually use diffuser. I love a foot bath. I just love a foot bath because I think a foot bath is just a lovely way of de-stressing and taking all the noise out of your head. If I've got time, I'll have the bath. So that's me. I'll submerge myself in water, but I don't. And also it's got this moisturizing the air as well, as you said, with the water. But yes, I mean, maybe I need to invest in an oil diffuser.
Well, you're making me want a bottle of pine milk straight away.
I want a foot bath, definitely.
No, I think it's speaking to me. My intuitometer is going, yes, that's the one, because I'm starting to get the eyes and the nose, and actually I get a little bit of a cough when the pollen's flying.
I've been reading recently about red light, and there are some little nasal contraptions that you can put up your nose with red light and near infrared light, because it helps the cells to regenerate. And Michael's got one. He looks so funny, sat watching telly with this red light up his nose. But it's helping. It's really, really helping. It's not to be used, when you've got hay fever. It's again, in the run up to it, to make sure that these cells are as healthy as possible.
Well, presumably this is after you've done the nasal waxing, is it?
Yes, maybe. No, just to set the record straight, I will not be doing nose hair extraction. Although I would prefer that for Michael to be
Michael, the red-nosed husband.
Yes, he's the guinea
Must be
pig.
good at night time. You can see him.
That is a new one. I've a lot of my clients use the infrared saunas to heat the body temperature to help get rid of toxins. But just going back on the inflammatory state, we all know if we're hungover, we're inflamed, we feel sick, we feel toxic. So reducing the stress on the body by drinking less, by, having juices, by making sure we're really well hydrated, by having electrolytes, I would say all of that, advanced self-care. And if people are going to do breathing exercises, make sure you're in a pollen-free environment. It is very calming to do breathing exercises, but, we just have to be sensible and be sure that it's either later at night when the air is, the pollen's not flying in the same way, or somewhere pollen-free.
And Evelyn, I know that in the last episode when we were talking about sleep, we really picked up on this sort of keeping ourselves in balance and self-regulating. I mean, would you say that if you're out of balance, you're going to suffer more? So how would people sort of bring themselves into that homeostasis?
So I could go on for hours about this, but I know we don't have hours and hours and hours. I think bringing rhythm into your day is very good at bringing you back into balance. And that can be routines. And some people benefit from that more than others, but everyone will benefit. So regular bedtimes, regular waking, regular meal times, sitting down at a table, an idea of when you will stop doing emails, because some types will extend that. But if you have an idea of when you said you would stop, then you know you're extending it. So it's like telling yourself off. I think rituals and routines, you can't beat them. They're fortifying, aren't they? The right ones.
Yeah, they are. Might take some time to identify what the right ones are for you or what the right rhythm is. I guess
Yes.
there's a bit of trial and error there, but I really like the idea of the consistency of it.
Well, I know, Evelyn, you teach about the types in Anthroposophy of
Yes.
the rhythmic, the nerve sense, and the metabolic types.
Yes.
And yes, tick. Good, Dr. Daniel.
We've got one of each here today.
Okay, well, tell us who's what, Evelyn.
Okay. So, well, maybe if I give some descriptions, then your listeners can work it out for themselves. I don't know. I think
Okay.
sometimes being able to observe makes it easier. But there's one type that may be in their head more, that may strive for perfection more, that may be quite organized and have more nervous energy, if you like. Then the polar opposite to that might be people who are steadfast and reliable, but sometimes it might take a lot to get them going. Once they start an activity, they are very good and can continue until the end. They won't give up before then. Normally quite warm blooded, whereas the one that I started with can feel the cold a little bit more. So you've kind of got two polar opposites. Then you have the one in the middle, and if they're in a balanced state, they're quite happy being there. But if there's chaos around and there's no rhythm and routine, then they can resonate or oscillate between the two, between a nervous and sensitive type, which I will be more prone to allergies, etc. Or they can resonate with a kind of metabolic, when your metabolism needs a little bit more support, like digestion and things like that. So, but ideally you have boundaries, you have borders, you have routines, and you have a rhythm, and you oscillate nicely but not dramatically between one and the other. So you're in balance, if you
So
like.
the first one is the nerve sense.
Yes.
Yeah. And the second one is
Metabolic
the
limb.
metabolic. Yeah. Which is Winnie the Pooh, always thinking about lunch. There's the rhythmic
Yes.
one. And I remember
Yes.
you saying the rhythmic person can go on working and has to be reminded to eat. So that's definitely not me.
So some people actually forget to eat. And I think eating's it's a good way of trying to work out which type you resonate mostly with. So if you're a nerve sense, you just cannot face food because you're up to high dough, you're kind of in a hyper state. Food is not on your mind. If you are the other way, metabolic limb, then sometimes these people, when they're stressed, out of balance, will eat more. So that's your polar opposite. And then one in the middle can simply forget to eat
Yeah.
because the routine's gone, there's chaos happening, and they do generally view food as fuel. So to keep them going, maybe not so pleasure seeking as a metabolic limb or an absolute necessity.
So I think, Evelyn, you're saying that Karen is our nerve sense and that I'm a self-confessed metabolic.
That's what I
And
said, yes. And I can be either or.
you're rhythmic. So in the context of hay fever,
Yes.
is any type more prone to hay fever amongst us?
So an out of balance nerve sense or an out of balance rhythmic would be more prone to this sensitivity to hay fever. Yes, because there's a kind of boundary element there, which may not be as strong with the nerve sense, definitely. And because this rhythmic can resonate between the two, then they can be quite prone to hay fever as well. But it's not exclusive. It's not exclusive because, yeah.
But you're a homeopath, Evelyn, and
Yes.
we've had a beautiful episode with Marcus Fernandez about constitutional remedies and versus symptomatic remedies. Where would you go with the homeopathic approach? I think it can be absolutely brilliant for hay fever, can't it?
It is. You get good results with hay fever. So sometimes with homeopathy, it's very clear. And you can have 3 really strong symptoms that make you go, yes, that's the remedy for you. And sometimes there can be a bit of an overlap or things change, especially with colds and flu and hay fever and those type of conditions. So sometimes a mixture, when there's a little bit of overlap of, say, 3 remedies, can be a good approach. There's a mixture with Allium cepa, Euphrasia and Gelsemium in homeopathic remedies, which the Allium cepa it's quite obvious when someone needs Allium cepa, because normally without the aid of infrared, the end of their nose is bright red and irritated, and there's a lot of sneezing, and there might be a little bit of wheezing. And Euphrasia, it's the eyes that really get it, so they can be really red, and the tears that come down from the eyes can be a little bit acrid as well, leaving red stains. And the Gelsemium, that's more of a dullness, like a lot of people get a bit dopey with hay fever, they're just not on it, and there's a bit of a thickness or a dullness with their thoughts. Then Gelsemium can really help with that, also with a bit of an itchy throat. So the 3 of them, they have such similar but quite different profiles that sometimes that mixture can really work nicely. I had a customer come into the shop one day, and it was hilarious because she was really cross and she was just really fed up, and she was just like, she had irritated eyes, irritated ears. She was like really scratching her ears and rubbing her eyes so that the blood vessels were bursting, actually, rubbing her nose and rubbing her throat. And it was her personality, which was just confirmed it. And there's a remedy called Nux Vom, which is nasty, ugly, and cross. And that just kind of like, she just was a picture of all of these things. And she even got cross with me when I said quickly, I think I know the remedy that you're needing, because I was working in a homeopathic pharmacy at the time. And she said, how do you know which remedy I need? And I just thought, oh no, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. But anyway, we got there, and she was very happy in the end. Just getting there was a little bit tricky.
I can definitely relate to the Allium cepa one. There's sometimes I'll have a reaction and I'm literally dripping, because it's like the onion, isn't it? The Allium cepa.
Yes, it is. Red onion.
And it's like the sort of the watery eyes you get when you're cutting onions. And I think that's when your nose is dripping like a tap, that's an Allium cepa indication, isn't it?
If there's redness and irritation, yeah.
I love taking the hay fever relief oral spray from Weleda, that, because I think it has all those things in, doesn't it? And if I am at a state where I'm starting to feel reactive, and it really is, Evelyn, if I look at other things that are going on in my life, I'm rushing around, I am stressed, I probably haven't eaten, I am a self-confessed nerve type, even though I try to keep calm and come out of that state. But that is what I reach for, a couple of sprays under the tongue. And so my reaction to pollen has got less. I have desensitized over the years. The more I've done on myself to release my emotions, to lower my stress levels, and I have these little, homeopathic remedies with me all the time. So I'm much less sensitive to it than I was when I was younger.
Well, I'm really curious about I had a boss when I went to do some work in Switzerland, a young man who told me when he saw me getting a bit allergic, he told me that he had been completely cured of hay fever that was so bad that he couldn't work, for that period. And it was a technique called NAET, NAET, and it stands for Nambupripad Allergy Elimination Technique. And apparently they find a reflex in your nervous system, which apparently got affected, that set up this allergic reaction. I haven't seen it done, but I have heard that NAET can pinpoint an original trauma linked to an allergic note. Have you heard of that?
Never.
To me, yeah, new, curious.
Yeah, they apparently do something that they call crossing reflexes. So they find a sensitized spot, and I think it's done on the spine, but obviously I don't know what I'm talking about but I just know that it exists, and that if this is really severe, maybe look down that road, NAET, and tell us if you do it and if you get some results, or if you've had it done. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah.
Exactly. Every day is a school day for us. And as you always say, Rosie, you learn so much from your clients, don't you? So as our audience members keep writing in and telling us things, we get really curious. There's so much out there that can help people.
I mean, the other more extreme thing is this cold water swimming and ice bathing. I mean, it's not for me. I expect you'd say that's because I'm a metabolic limb person. I can't think of anything worse, quite frankly. But I have got clients, including the beautiful Claire Palmer, who's lived all this time, with fatigue and all the kind of difficulties she has with her health. She's now invested in a cold plunge pool in her garden that they keep at about 10 degrees. She goes out and says that the nervous system reset she gets from that is quite phenomenal. And so do you know any people that are using that kind of technique?
I do. I mean, it's a big trend in Cornwall, where I used to live. The group is called Blue Tit Swimmers. You can imagine. You can imagine why. My dear friend Naomi Smith is a blue tit swimmer and has gone in the water in all sorts of temperatures, even with a little pickaxe sometimes, and like.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, she's training for a half marathon and she's older than me, so it must work for her. Yeah, I went in with her once into the sea at night on Halloween, scared myself to death. She looked after me. If you're going to do this, do go with the group, because they've got all the sort of support mechanisms in place. And when you come out, it's about keeping you warm and getting warm inside. So they have hot chocolate ready, and, they go in with the hats and their gloves and feet, the swim socks and things on. So, do look into it carefully if you think it's for you and you're going in the sea, because it's, you've got to be respectful of the sea. But when I came out, I felt amazing, absolutely amazing. So I've done it in Spain in a swimming pool. I didn't do it at Marcus's house. I did a house sit for Marcus once, and he has got one on his deck at the front of his house. He's an avid cold water plunger. So there's definitely something in it. But I have heard it's not good for women, for menopausal women. And I haven't got to the bottom of that yet. So I will feed back when I've done a little bit more research.
Well, all I know is that the people who do it are pretty much addicted to it. And because you vasoconstrict like mad, and then you have a kind of reactive hyperemia where all the blood vessels open up again. And, because we're talking about a sort of congested nose, that's what got me thinking about it, that with the cold water, if you want to go a step further than just bathing your nose, you could immerse yourself in cold water or have a cold shower and do a complete reset with your thermostat in that way.
Yes, I think I'll do a little bit more experimenting up here in Scotland. In Cromarty, they go in the sea in all weathers, and there is a sauna for when you come out. So I shall film myself, Rosie.
I think
I
just
will go
putting your
in.
rubbish, you're just putting your rubbish out, Karen, will be cold up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you kind of lost me at 10 degrees, I'm afraid.
We won't even go outside if it's 10 degrees, will we, Evelyn?
No, not for me. No, it's hyperemia. I think I'm hyper. What's it?
Emia. So like,
Yeah,
just sort of, as opposed to the blood vessels being all
constricted.
constricted,
Yeah,
that they then open up again. So you get really good perfusion. Your skin is amazing. And, you've got more blood to the brain. So all the tissues get, when everything constricts, everything gets squished, the toxins get squished out and so forth. And then when everything opens up again, you're all flushed with clean new blood. And yeah.
I think I'm slow to get into a hyperanemic state because I just tend to get really cold. So
Not
yeah,
hyperanemic, hyperemic. Hyperemic.
Okay.
Yeah. So flushed, pink.
You do look pink when you come out. Your skin looks like it's been burnt. It's that pink. Anyway, we're not selling it, are we? We have a lot of people who are avid cold water swimmers. It's a big trend, isn't it? I've just realised as we come to the end of our second episode with Evelyn, and this talk about the different types, that's why this works, because we've got one of each. So there must be some level of balance happening here on an energetic level. That means as a team, you've got all the strengths and all the weaknesses of all the different types, and we're whole, we're complete. That's what it feels like.
Very nice. And Evelyn, your lovely book that you wrote a couple of years ago, which talks about the rhythms, and what's that called?
It's called Natural Wellness Every Day, the Weleda Way. And there are different chapters. There are sections on, oh, well done, Karen. That's very good. Isn't it beautiful?
On my bookshelf, right by the side of me. Yeah.
The Natural Wellness Every Day,
the Weleda Way. Essentially, it was a brain dump of Claire Hattersley, our gardener. So she very much wrote the nature section in it. The health section I contributed to Elizabeth King, the skin section and beauty. And then there's a lovely bit at the end, which is self-care, which gives you nice routines and rituals, and it's seasonal. So like a warm rose oil hug might not be so appealing in summer, but it's glorious in winter. So it's very much, there's a wave of a thread of the seasons going through. And you just have to look outside to see what is happening outside. We've all got a little bit more energy, haven't we? Because outside everything's coming to life. And it's a reminder that we are part of nature, and if we stay within nature's rhythms, then that's the correct rhythm, because nature's telling us.
Well, I thoroughly recommend the book. And since talking to you and learning from you and Claire about the anthroposophical way, the biodynamic way, it's definitely heightened my awareness of the seasons and the rhythmic nature of life. So thank you so much for this precious way of looking at life, Evelyn. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, always learning. Thank you, beautiful ones. That was a great episode. And for anybody who's struggling with hay fever, we send you love. We know how difficult it is. And we hope you find what you're looking for and you find your balance.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Alive and Loving It. We really hope that today's conversation has sparked your passion and showed you ways to open up into the vibrant life that's possible for you.
Absolutely, Rosie. I mean, we do have to remember that transformation begins with love, and that is self-love, love for others, and love for our beautiful planet. When you embrace love and you just allow yourself to receive as much as you give, you unlock the fullest potential of your life.
That is the truth, Karen. And we're here to support you every step of the way on your journey. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, please join our community and check out our trainings and our services such as my Dr. Rosy Daniel clinic and Karen's beautiful women's circles and retreats and the events where we can all go deeper together. And do please send us your feedback. We want to hear your ideas for the podcast, who you'd like us to interview, and the questions you want us to ask and get answered. Through the contact page on our website, just go to aliveandlovingit.org.
I've really enjoyed reading them. But when you're there, be sure to sign up for our newsletter and updates. And what about following us on Instagram as well? We are at Alive and Loving It Community. Once you've signed up to the newsletter, you'll receive extra notes from today's show and more inspiration to help you live your most vibrant life.
Thank you for being with us. Keep shining, stay true to yourself, and remember, this is your time to live your fullest, healthiest life.
So until next time, keep doing what you love most in life. I know Rosie and I will be. We're so excited to connect with you on the next episode of Alive and Loving It. And we welcome you with open hearts to our Alive and Loving It community.